Today, I'm talking about working with your inner critic, 5 steps to self-compassion, and this is part 5, the final part of this series. So, a little bit about me. I'm Carlene Lehmann, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I have a private practice located in Austin, Texas. And you can go to our website at www.relationshipsmatteraustin.com to learn more about our services, and we have a wealth of information on there to support you as well. So the work that I do is I work with individuals, couples, and families, and they come to see me when they want to increase closeness and connection and work on communication, whether their communication escalates to arguments or whether they withdraw. Like, I can work with both of those, and oftentimes in a couple or even in a family, some folks will be more towards the wanting to stay engaged in the conversation, and then usually another person or their partner will want to withdraw because it's overwhelming. And so I can help work with you guys on that. Even though you differ in your communication styles, there is great strength, and I love supporting couples. And then also helping to create more cooperation especially when things are hard, when there are life challenges that come up, helping you guys to be on the same team and feel that. So we are talking about those 5 steps to self-compassion, and there's been other videos, so you can look for those where I talked about step 1, practicing forgiveness, step 2, developing a growth mindset, step 3, expressing gratitude, step 4, finding the right level of generosity, and then today we're talking about step 5, being mindful. So, we are talking about being mindful or mindfulness, and it has been found to have a positive impact on self-compassion, which is that gentleness and coming to an understanding of ourselves, right? Loving ourselves even when we're not perfect. And that when we develop that self-compassion, it lessens our self-judgment, or what I've talked about is that inner critic, right? That part that can be critical and judge us. So mindfulness helps us move from that self-judgment to more self-compassion. So I love this Calvin and Hobbes comic right here, right? It says, "We're so busy watching out for what's just ahead of us that we don't take time to enjoy where we are." Or we can kind of fall back on looking at the past, right? And kind of replaying that over. But when we're either future-oriented or past-oriented, we lose sight of what's happening right now. And this is especially good for folks who feel anxiety or depression, because anxiety is about looking toward the future and the worries of that, and depression is looking at the past, and it could be looking at that we had something back then that's missing now, right? Especially with grief and loss. If we've lost a loved one, we can experience depression, which is very natural in that situation, that we would feel that way, because that's a big change, right? But or we could be looking at the past and things that happened that we may not they may be traumatic, or it may not be to that scale, but they were some hard and challenging things that are staying stuck with us as well. So with mindfulness, it's all about coming to the present moment and recognizing where we are. And some folks find it helpful to meditate, to sit down and do that. There's also walking meditation where people move. If you're a really active person and sitting still is hard, then you might try to do the walking or moving meditation. There's other modalities out there as well, like Tai Chi and Qigong, yoga. For some folks, it's running or some other sport that they have to be present. They have to be focused in what's going on right now. For some folks, it's knitting or some kind of sewing, or there's just so many activities that can bring us to the present moment and where we can practice mindfulness. And it's a lot broader than just sitting and meditating, because for some folks that's not helpful, right? There's other activities that are better suited. So just knowing that, right? So being mindful is we're being attentive. We're becoming aware of our moment by moment experience. And we can start in simple ways. There's a book out that talks about even when we're washing dishes, like learning to cultivate the mindfulness and like being in the moment as we're picking up the dish and we're feeling the water, the soapy water, and we're taking the sponge and wiping the dishes off. And it's just tracking those little by little things, right, that are happening that sometimes when we get busy, we're just in a rush and we're like 20 things are happening in 2 seconds, right? And we're also developing a non-judging attitude, right? We want to, as best as we can, this is hard and it takes practice, and we don't want to beat ourselves up if we notice that we are judging, right? Because that just adds on another layer of judgment. But as we become more aware and we're tracking our thoughts and what we're doing, we may notice some judging, critical, that inner critic coming up. And so we just stop evaluating and judging. We just, okay, I'm here, right? Or we're listening to that voice and we're saying, I appreciate you. I talked about that in part 1 of this video. And then there's another video that I did about understanding your inner critic. And you go to those and watch those videos because they will help with this part. So as we do this, we develop a heightened awareness. We start to realize thoughts and emotions that we didn't even realize we were having. And we realize that they're temporary. And if we can, what I call, weather them, if we can build tolerance, if we can have, little bits of time that we can be with it and realize, hey, I can do this. I can feel that feeling and the world's not going to end, right? It may feel like it at times, but we can develop, okay, I can do this for a minute. I can do this for 2 minutes. And we can build up over time that we're, okay, I can, feel that feeling that's hard for me. For some folks, it's sadness. For some folks, it's anger, right? It could be shame that's coming up. It's hard to sit with. But that it will soon pass. And sometimes we do need support with this. There are a lot of good modalities out there that can help us. And that's something that you can reach out to us for as well if that's something you're needing. Because sometimes we can become stuck in those places and those feelings. And with a little help, we can loosen it. But then we, over time, become less vulnerable to this emotional distress. It doesn't trigger us or hijack us in the same way that it used to. So here's some ways that we can practice mindfulness in what's called a mindful minute. So it doesn't have to take a long time, right? A reminder that mindfulness means that we're aware of what is happening right now and how you feel about it. And here's some different ways we can tune in to that present moment. So if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes, right? Sit quietly. If you don't want to close your eyes, if that's not comfortable for you, then don't worry about that, right? Do what works for you. We're honoring your body and what it needs. So one way that we can take a mindful minute is through our breathing. We can do what's called belly breathing. That's where we take a deep breath in through our nose, and then we hold it for a few seconds, and then we release it through our mouth. And when we inhale, we're expanding our belly with that breath out like a balloon. And then when we exhale, we release it through our mouth. We're letting all that air out of our belly, and it's deflating like a balloon. So we're taking some deep breaths. I recommend at least 5, especially if you're feeling some anxiety, because it helps to calm our nervous system. So you're taking those deep belly breaths, and then you're letting them out slowly. And you can think about how the air goes in and out of your lungs, that our body just naturally supports that process, and we don't even have to think about it most times, right? It just naturally happens. So taking those breaths. Another way to become aware and mindful is to listen, right? You can go out in nature or even in your home and just listen to the different sounds that are going on around you, right? Whether it's the birds chirping or a dog barking or, your kid, you can hear them playing or whatever it is, right? Maybe you have some wind chimes, but just listening to those sounds and think about how many you can name. And there's something about naming them out loud that calms our nervous system. And so, you can just say, oh, I hear the wind rustling through the leaves, or I hear the birds chirping, and just name them. Another way is through our sight, through seeing. So you can look around, and this is another one. If you can name 5 things, and sometimes it helps and this works for other people too. So if you have kiddos or other people that you're working with, you can suggest these things, but you can say, okay, I'm going to list 5 things in this room that are yellow, right? And then look for those 5 things and name them. Or I'm outside and I'm going to look for 5 things that look, that are a round shape. So it can be by shape, color, texture, or how it's made. Like, I'm going to name 5 things that are made of paper, right? 5 things that are shiny. And the naming of it helps our nervous system to calm down and to be present. Touching is another one. So what you see is we're going through the different senses, and you don't have to do all of these. You can just pick one. But so touching, right, is using your fingertips to feel an item, to touch it and really take it in. What's it feel like, right? Or feel other things that are around you, right? What words would you use to describe it? Is it smooth? Is it rough? Do you have other words that you'd like to use to describe it? There's no wrong or right answer. It's just what it is for you. And another one is smiling. So we can open our eyes, right? Take in the world, smile back at it, right? And enjoy what we see in our experience. Yes, it is not all enjoyable. There are times that it's hard. But even in those moments, there is something good that we can find if we look for it. And I encourage you to look for it, especially when life is hard. Another thing that I have talked about that I feel is so important is when we talk about that inner critic and then we're developing more compassion, that's leading us to create and develop this inner champion, this part of ourselves that reminds us of the positive, that we are okay just the way we are, and that we can do it, and that I'm proud of myself. And I love this picture. It says, fight the negative thoughts and achieve your goals. So there is oftentimes that inner critic part of ourselves, right? And it says things like, I'm too stupid, or I'm too weak, or I'm pathetic, or I can't do this. And we've all felt that at times. And that is a part. And it's about honoring and appreciating that it's trying to tell us something, and it's wanting us, it's helping us, it wants us to get better, but it's just not the best at it, right? But then there's this inner champion, this other part that can step in those moments and says, I am strong, I am smart, I am worthwhile, and I can do this. And it's like a muscle. The more that we build that, right, the more we practice it, the stronger it gets. And this is exciting to me because there is hope, right? We have the inner critic, but we also have our inner champion as well. So some important reminders. You are worthy of love. So next time you do not rise to the expectations you have for yourself, right? Just take a moment. Become mindful of the difficult emotions that are coming up. And work on forgiving ourselves and recognizing that we're only human. In part 1, we talked about practicing forgiveness. So you can go back and listen to that as well to help remind you and encourage you. And then see if you can identify how you would like to do it differently next time. This is a part of that growth mindset that we were talking about, that we can learn from our mistakes or failures, or what we sometimes view as those, right? That we can learn and we can do different. And it's an opportunity to stop and see, maybe we needed something different in that situation, and we can get that for ourselves, right? That what were we needing? What was going on? You know, maybe it's how we approach it with another person. Maybe we come from a place of gentleness, right? And understanding for their situation. You know, it depends on what the situation is, but we can do it differently. It doesn't have to stay the same. Another important reminder is being grateful for the opportunity that we had in the first place, right? So whatever that thing was, that, hey, we had an opportunity to try, and we were persistent, and we continue to be persistent, right? To try it again in the future and not give up. I love that picture. We can give ourselves a high five, like, way to go, right? You tried, and yes, it didn't go as you planned, but wow, the courage, right, that you had. Way to go, me, for trying, and we don't have to be perfect. And yes, we can acknowledge we could have done better. But hey, you did it. And sometimes all right, or what I like to call good enough, is just fine, right? Being good enough is okay. Like, we don't have to be perfect. And congratulating ourselves and appreciating ourselves and being proud of ourselves for taking the risk and being vulnerable in the first place. I mean, that is huge. Way to go. So this was a big topic today, with a lot of information. And if you have any questions or would like more support on this, you can stay connected with us. You can go to our website, relationshipsmatteraustin.com, and sign up for our monthly newsletter. We also have articles and videos on our blog, and then information on our services. We offer individual, couples, and family counseling, as well as online counseling. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And you can give us a call if you'd like to reach out, 512-994-0432. You can also email me at carlene@relationshipsmatteraustin.com. We would love to speak with you. We love to give this information out to help empower. It's information that we picked up at one time ourselves and has made dramatic effects on our life, and that's why we share it. This journey, right, with its ups and downs, get out there and risk and try new things, and sometimes we need support, and we're here for you. So if you would like that, reach out. All right, well, I wish you well on your journey.